Hey, so here I am again at Chats with Mom. This is my mom, Carol,
Hi.
and I am Beth. And I want to chat with you, Mom. My mom established something when our kids were little, and my sister and I we lived really close here in Norman, Oklahoma. We together at the time had 7 kids. I had 4, she had 3. She now has 4, but this was before Ella was born. And my mom worked full time, crazy busy, but she wanted to establish what we ended up calling Grandma Kids Club. So, how did that come apart, Mom?
Well, I recognized every Friday night we had a band come to church, and I knew that if my grandkids were just there let loose, they'd just run around and probably get into trouble. So I decided to start having the Grandkids Club at my house, and they would eat with me, and we would talk and play games.
Now, I want to kind of give you guys an idea of the age group. So, my mom had about a 30 or 45-minute commute, right, to work.
Yes.
And so she was driving home on a Friday, coming home busy. And then I would drop my 4 kids off. Stephanie would drop her 3 kids off. So, the youngest, what do you think the youngest? So, Benny and Riley would have been maybe
Yeah.
three, three
Yes.
or 4 years old, like 3.5. So we're talking between ages 3 and 8. So oldest would have been 8, which is my oldest son Caleb, and 7 kids in that gap. Now my mom uh, took care of them all night. So we would drop them off, I don't know, 7 o'clock,
Yes.
and they spent the night at her house, and then we would pick them up the next morning. So how did you manage that? Because I know that's going to be everybody's question. Is how did you manage that? What were some of the things that you did and established to be able to manage that many kids that close in age?
Well, the rules were they were to bring over a sleeping bag and a pillow, and that they would spend the night in Grandma's living room, sleeping on the floor. So when I got home from Hobby Lobby, where I worked, um, the kids were there, and of course, I could have had McDonald's or something like that, but I decided that we would cook and I would let them prepare the food. So we, I had a can of Spam, and I'd open the can, and then I'd let them use a regular table knife and slice slices of Spam. And I had macaroni and cheese going on another griddle pan, and so they were responsible for cooking. And since then, Samantha, she moved to New York City to sing and dance and whatever she could do. And she sent me a picture of her supper, and it was a can of Spam that she was cooking. And I thought, well, I'm so glad I taught her how not to starve.
This is true. And I know that if we had all 7 of these kids that participated, my niece, my nephews, and my kids, there's so much that they learned from my mom during this time. But I remember you sharing with me that you had something where they had to draw.
Yes, I had just a brown paper sandwich bag, and I put little tickets in there that said to do something. So Caleb, my oldest grandson, he got to be first. And so he drew out a ticket that said, sing a song. And he said, he just looked at me and he said, I'm not going to do it. And I said, well, that's okay, Caleb. You don't have to sing a song, but you don't get to draw another ticket until you sing a song. So all of a sudden he got into gear and he sang the fastest song I've ever heard. And I have completely forgotten what it was, but he sang a
He
song.
got it.
And then the next oldest got to draw a ticket, and I think that was Jacob.
Yep.
Jacob is left-handed and Caleb is right-handed. And in my little kitchen, they figured out if one would stand on one side and the other on the other side because of the left hand and the right hand, they could make sandwiches for everybody else. So they made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And using that logic, figured out the right-handed person did something and the left-handed person did something. So everything we did, I hoped it was helping them learn how to figure out problems.
Oh, 100%. I promise you it did. I will say that Caleb recently told me, he goes, Grandma was really smart. She came up with very creative ways for us to do chores. And he's like, I figured out later on it was things that she didn't want to do. Like how did you get them to wash your car?
Well, that was I had a little car, and I just figured out that tonight we're going to wash my car, and none of them wanted to do it. And I said, well, we're not going to do anything else until we wash my car. So um, they got the bucket and the water and the soap and rags, and all of them got together and helped each other to get my car washed.
Well, they figured it out. What about things in the garden? Because I know you had a garden.
Yes, I had a compost uh, heap, where that you put your leftover food or your peelings from your potatoes, and I had flowers, so I wanted to make sure that I had compost. And so I had bought a bag of manure, and I told the kids, I said, you have to spread the manure. And I'd ask them, I said, do you know what manure is? And they said they didn't know. And I said, well, it's cow poop. And I said, you have to spread that manure into my compost so that the worms will be happy.
And what are the worms good for?
Well, then I would take the worms and put them around my flowers.
Okay.
The worms make tunnels and make your flowers happy.
Oh, I love it. I love how it all works together. Well, remember that one time you let a bunch of ladybugs loose?
Oh, yes.
So why would you do that?
I found it was a kind of like Atwoods or
Yeah, like
a garden shop, and they had ladybugs in a container. There were like 1,000 ladybugs in there, and on my roses I have aphids, little white bugs that eat the leaves. So I got these ladybugs to eat the aphids, and I was so excited and telling the kids how neat it was for me to have all these ladybugs. And so Nathan, he was excited and he said he wanted to see them. So I said, well, we're gonna open this container and we're gonna let the ladybugs out so they'll eat these white aphids. And so whenever the ladybugs got out, they got all over Nathan's arm, and he had a fit. He didn't like that the ladybugs were all over his arm. So I took care of that, got the ladybugs back on the rose bushes, and he was okay. But everything that I would come up with something new, I would share it with the kids, and they were so interested in whatever I said. And I'm seeing that now with my great grandchildren. Mm-hmm. They're so intelligent And if you start talking about something, they want to hear what you have to say. And sometimes they just want to look at me. I'm not sure what they're seeing, but whatever it is, I'm glad they're looking.
You're glad they like to look, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know if my sister was here, she would say this too, because our kids, definitely all of us, have so many stories about this time because it went on for several years. And what we had at the church is we call it the One Way Cafe, and it was a coffee shop. So on Friday nights, we turned the church into a concert venue, and we had an espresso machine. Oh my goodness, boy, this was years and years ago. The church was way ahead of its time because back then there weren't coffee bars in churches. I mean, we really were the first in Norman, Oklahoma to have something like that. And we would open it up for bands to come and play. And then my husband or my brother-in-law, Jim, would share a message. And so I was a little concerned. I understand my mom's concern because we would have our kids there. And where do you think our kids wanted to sit? Right by the speakers where the band is thumping and the music is super loud. So I do appreciate. But over the years, the things that my kids learned and took away from this, and I know my sister's kids, it was huge. But Mom, my kids forever will say that Grandma was the first person to really introduce them to musicals. So what are some of those musicals that you would watch with the kids at Grandma Kids Club?
I would plan to have a video for the kids to watch. And one of my favorites was Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. And of course, that ended up being a story about one of them getting married and they had a baby and everything. But it was part of life. And so we watched that. And the kids learned to sing the songs.
Yeah.
And it was good that they learned those things, and at least I had some supervision, so hopefully I taught them right.
Well, another one they would watch all the time was The Sound of Music.
Yes.
Those two, I think, went on repeat. And I mean, what would you say? Because I know I have learned. I have 6 grandkids, and I have learned, I think, everything I know from you. To other grandmas that are out there that are new, or maybe they would love to do something like this, what would be your suggestion and how you organize something like that?
You talk to the kids, and you be excited about it. And have something special, like a special treat or something for them. And then they're gung-ho. They're ready to do whatever you're going to do. So you need to be involved with your grandchildren. Number one suggestion for all of you is be thankful for your families and participate in things with your family. If you want to go see the big the trucks that have big wheels on them, go with your grandchildren. And those are memories that you have, that you can say, I remember when we went to see the big wheels. And the grandchildren will remember that. So you encourage memories and always enjoy family. Eat your meals together and enjoy what you eat. And when your children are learning how to cook, reinforce that and tell. I remember when Beth made chocolate chip cookies and how that she won a blue ribbon on them.
And I didn't follow the rules.
So good and bad, you're making memories, and you need to encourage memories of family.
Yes, I agree. And I will say, as we wrap this up, the greatest gift that my mom has given her grandkids and her great-grandkids now is the encouragement, in the Lord and praying for them. And you were always teaching them about the Lord. So it wasn't just her saying things, it was her example stopping and praying, encouraging the kids to pray. So she was pouring into them in many ways that we are forever grateful for. Thank you, Mom.
Okay. Well, thank you.